You come home to a dead man's apartment. You do not know this yet. The realtor showed you the 1K unit in Kitasenda, a 10-minute walk from the Hyota line, 23 square meters. A single room with a kitchenette, a unit bath, the color of old teeth, a balcony just wide enough for one person to stand and smoke. The rent was low for the neighborhood? You did not ask why. You signed the lease 3 weeks after your wife's lawyer sent the final papers. Your name came off the family register in Saitama. Your daughter stayed with her mother, you kept your suits, your commuter pass, and a rice cooker you bought at Big Camera with points you had been saving for something else. The first night you hear breathing that is not yours. You assume it is the pipes. The building is from 1987, a product of the bubble years when developers poured concrete into every gap in Tokyo's skyline. The walls are thin. You can hear your neighbor's TV through the plaster. You set your alarm for 5:45. You fold your futon into the closet. You go to sleep on a floor that someone else died on, and the dead do not always leave when the cleaning crew finishes. In Japanese folklore, a Yūrei is not a monster. It is a person who could not stop feeling. The word itself breaks into two parts, Yu meaning faint or dim, and Rei meaning spirit. A Yūrei persists because of attachment, regret. Love that outlasted the body carrying it. This is not the Western haunted house, where evil seeps from the walls. This is something closer to a guest who missed their train and has been waiting in your living room ever since. Unsure how to tell you they are still here. The ghost in your apartment is a woman. You do not see her. You see evidence. A cup moved from the dish rack to the counter. The faint smell of laundry detergent you did not buy. Once, you come home at 11:15 after drinks with a client and find the bathroom light already on. You stand in the genkan, still in your shoes, and stare at the light under the door. Then you take off your shoes. You line them up. You go to bed. Her name was Saeki Yoko. She lived in this apartment for 9 years. She worked at a printing company in Bunkyo Ward. She was 38 when she died. You learn none of this from the realtor. You learn it from the building manager months later when you ask about the stain on the ceiling that will not respond to bleach. He tells you in the way Japanese men of a certain generation communicate difficult truths. Sideways with a long pause and then a remark about the weather. She was a quiet tenant, he says. No trouble. You nod. You do not ask how she died. You suspect you already know. Japan records roughly 20,000 suicides a year. The peak was 2003, when over 34,000 people ended their lives, a number so large it briefly exceeded annual traffic deaths. Saeki Yoko became one of those numbers sometime in 2016. She was found after 11 days, a specialized cleaning company, the kind that advertises discreetly in the back pages of ward newsletters, handled the aftermath. There is an entire industry built around the space between a person dying and someone noticing, kodokushi, lonely death. It claims an estimated 30,000 people per year in Japan, disproportionately older men, but not exclusively. Saeki Yoko was not old. She was just alone. You are also alone, but you have not yet admitted it. Your days have a brutal sameness, the alarm at 5:45. The commute, Kyoto line to Otamachi, then the Muranushi line, 2 stops. Your company makes industrial adhesives. You're in the domestic sales division. You eat lunch at your desk. You leave the office at 9 or 10. Sometimes later, you stop at the Lawson near the station for an onigiri and a can of Strong Zero. You eat standing in your kitchen. You shower. You sleep. The ghost watches. You do not know the ghost watches. A 2010 NHK survey found that roughly 32% of Japanese men over 60 reported having 0 close friends outside of work. You're 51, you're ahead of schedule. Your colleagues are not friends. They are the people you drink with when drinking is required. Your ex-wife managed every friendship you ever had. She scheduled dinners, she remembered birthdays, she maintained the fabric of a social life you wore without ever learning how it was made. Now that fabric is gone. You are what sociologists might call relationally naked. The Japanese slang is more vivid. Nur ochiba, wet fallen leaf, you cling to whatever surface you land on because you have nowhere else to go. The ghost begins to do small things. She folds the towel you left crumpled on the rack. She turns off the burner you forgot. One morning, you find your commuter pass placed neatly on the shoe shelf in the genkan, though you're certain you left it in your jacket. These interventions are so minor they could be mistakes of memory. You're tired. You drink more than you used to. It is easy to doubt yourself. But then one night in November, you wake at 3 in the morning and she is sitting by the window. Not a shape, not a shadow. A woman in a white blouse, her hair loose, her back to you, looking out at the lights of the apartment building across the street. You do not scream, you do not move, you lie there and watch her, and what you feel is not fear. It is recognition. You know what it looks like when someone sits alone at a window in the middle of the night? You have done it yourself in the house in Saitama, in the months before the divorce when your wife slept in your daughter's room and you sat in the kitchen watching headlights sweep across the ceiling. Are you lonely? You say. Your voice is a whisper. She does not turn around, but the room gets slightly warmer. the way a room does when someone in it exhales. This is the beginning of something, not a romance, not a haunting, something the Japanese language has a better word for than English does, Ibasho, a place where one belongs. The anthropologist Anne Allison wrote about Ibasho in her study of precarious Japan, how the collapse of lifetime employment and the family compact left millions of people without a social location. You lost your Ibasho twice, once when your wife filed for divorce. Once when your section chief hinted that early retirement packages were available. The ghost lost hers when she died and no one came for 11 days. You start talking to her. At first it feels insane. Then it feels necessary. You come home, you take off your shoes, you say, "I'm back," Tadaima. The word every Japanese person says when they enter their home. It expects a response, "Okari, welcome back." No one has said Okari to you in 14 months. But when you say Tadaima into the empty apartment, the light above the stove flickers once gently and you decide that this counts. The philosopher Byung-Chul Han writes about the disappearance of the other in late capitalist society. Every surface is smoothed, every encounter optimized for friction-free exchange. The other, the genuinely strange, the resistant, the irreducible is expelled from daily life. But you cannot smooth a ghost. She is pure otherness. She is present without utility, without obligation, without the transactional weight that defines every other relationship you have. She does not need you to perform. She does not need your salary, your title, your business card with its embossed company logo. She needs something you cannot name, and you need something you cannot name. And this unnamed thing hangs in the air of your 23 square meters like the smell of incense after Obon. Obon comes in August. You buy a small offering set from the Don Quixote in Ueno, fruit, rice cakes, a tiny lantern. You set it on the counter. You do not know her Buddhist name. You do not know her family temple. You light the candle anyway. For 3 days, the apartment feels different, fuller, as though the walls have expanded by a centimeter in every direction. My daughter called today, you tell the empty room. She is in her second year of university. Now you pause. She asked if I was eating properly. The light above the stove flickers twice. You smile. It is the first time you have smiled in this apartment without alcohol involved. Months pass. The strange cohabitation acquires its own rhythm. You buy better groceries. You stop eating at the convenience store. One evening you cook nebe, a simple hot pot with tofu and Chinese cabbage, and you set 2 bowls on the counter. You eat from one. The other sits there steaming. When you wash the dishes, both bowls are empty. You do not question this. Questioning, it would mean admitting something you're not ready to admit, that the most meaningful relationship in your life is with someone who is not alive, but the living world is still there. In February, your section chief calls you into a meeting room with no windows. The early retirement package is no longer optional. You're 52, you will receive 18 months of salary and a handshake. Your commuter pass will expire, your email will be deactivated. The identity that structured every day of your adult life, from the day you entered the company at 22 in a black suit with all the other new recruits, standing in rows in the gymnasium reciting the company pledge, that identity is now deleted. You come home early for the first time in 30 years. It is 2 in the afternoon. Light fills the apartment differently at this hour. You can see dust in the air. You can see the stain on the ceiling. You sit on the floor and say nothing. The ghost sits beside you. You know this because the air to your left is cooler and smells faintly of the laundry detergent she used in life, a brand they stopped making in 2018. I don't know what I am now, you say. The light does not flicker this time. Instead, something touches your hand, not warmth, a pressure like the memory of a hand, like someone pressing a palm against yours through a pane of glass. You live this way for 3 more years. The seasons turn. Your daughter visits once. She stands in the Jenkin and looks around the apartment and does not come inside. She takes you to a family restaurant in the shopping arcade. She asks about your health. You tell her you're fine. She does not believe you. When she leaves, she hugs you in the parking lot quickly, as though embarrassed. You hold on for 1 second too long. Back in the apartment, you tell the ghost about the hug. The light flickers. You sit by the window together outside. Tokyo moves in its 10 million directions at once. And inside this room, 2 people who have been discarded by the living world keep each other company in the simplest way possible by being present. One morning in April during cherry blossom season, you do not wake up. The alarm sounds at 5:45. It sounds for a long time. Eventually it stops. The ghost sits by the window. She waits outside. Petals fall through the warm air and settle on the balcony railing. 7 days later, the building manager uses his master key. He finds you on your futon, peaceful, undiscovered, kodokushi, but not quite, because someone was watching the entire time. Someone noticed the exact moment you stopped breathing. Someone sat beside you in the dark and did not leave. The specialized cleaning crew comes. They pack your things into plastic bags. They scrub the floor. They leave the apartment empty. 23 square meters, a kitchenette, a unit bath. The color of old teeth, a balcony just wide enough for 2 ghosts to stand and watch the city that forgot them both. The realtor lists the unit the following month. The rent is low for the neighborhood. The new tenant does not ask why. She signs the lease. She brings her things. She sets her shoes in the genkan and says "Tadaima" into the empty room. The light above the stove flickers once.